We saw those scenes, right? It was very, extremely emotional. But from your vantage point, what did you witness?
We apologize for that technical problems there, Blaine. This is live TV and this happens. But getting back to what we were saying earlier, I don't think anything could have prepared journalists as well as family members for the kind of detail that came out of that affidavit yesterday. I know that a short while into the affidavit, is when the council got to the detail around the rape and the killing, the gallery just broke down, and the magistrate had no other alternative but to just stand down proceedings. And yesterday was a very tough day for the family members here who have been having quite great difficulty in putting this chapter to rest. And I don't think they'll put this chapter to rest for a very long time, Blaine, for as long as this kind of detail will come out of these proceedings. And remember, this is only the bail application. More explosive detail is likely to come out of the trial. So yesterday, very harrowing, very emotionally taxing for everyone, but especially for the community members and the relatives who had to listen to those last moments of how their relatives died and those grueling conditions under which they died, Blaine.
I mean, when these details were being read out in court, what were the reactions from the accused?
Like we've seen in the other bail in the other appearances that we've had before the Lenasia court as well as this court, they show very little reaction. What I did notice about Ernest Mabaso, he would bite on the back of his teeth. He wouldn't make eye contact. He would look down all the time. There's very little communication between the two accused, who we now understand were in constant communication with each other, but very little emotion from them. Their body language very, very cold, and not really making eye contact even with the family members. Blaine, we see a lot of them, most of the time they're looking down, not really wanting to, give too much away by looking at anyone in court when this detail is forthcoming out of these proceedings, Blaine.
Because if I remember correctly, Ernest Mabaso broke down at one stage, isn't it, earlier in court proceedings?
Yes, this happened at the Lenasia Magistrates Court when we did a live crossing in the court with one of the relatives, and she was, her emotion really touched many when she had spoken about the conditions that they had to identify those bodies in, and she was talking about how the eyes were, the eyes were popping out, the tongues of the miners were out, and she then directly spoke to Ernest and said, I've been looking for you. Why did you do this? And on that particular day, we saw him breaking down, but we haven't seen something like that yesterday. There was a moment when the investigating officer had spoken about how he had asked for forgiveness from his grandmother, and before he was taken into police custody. There we saw him again slightly becoming again emotional, Blaine, when, there was quite some detail around the state he was in when he was being arrested and how he had apologized and asked forgiveness. There we saw slightly a more, a Mabaso with a conscience, thinking about, his family, his grandmother, the state that they were in when he was taken into police custody, Blaine. But Mr. Cooper, very little emotion, him just being very, looking straight into nothingness and not really giving any emotion from these proceedings, Blaine.
Jill, are we likely to get a ruling today?
Blaine, when I spoke to one of the defense counsel this morning, he said he's got quite a lot of questions for the investigating officer. And he says, it's likely to be a long day, and he's just one of two counsel that is going to put questions to Sergeant Ndlovu. I personally don't think we will get an outcome today, but the magistrate will still have to peruse and go through all the detail that has come out of this bail application, as well as the testimony and the affidavits that was put before him. So it's unlikely that we'll get some sort of outcome today, but if we do, it will be very good in terms of justice, and that these families can, try and work through the emotions until the trial stage of these proceedings, Blaine.
Yeah, I understand that proceedings were likely to kick off at 9 o'clock. Any reason for the delay?
Blaine, we normally start with first or postponements, and then we'd immediately go into our bail application. I'm not sure why we haven't started at 9 o'clock today, but we're likely to start anytime soon. I can see the teams here, and I'll ask Sam just to give you some sort of pictures of the teams here. They're just having a little bit of a caucus, and this is what happens normally ahead of the bail application. There you can see the prosecution and some of the counsel. There we see the magistrate's door now opening, and he's just talking. He's just entering court now, so it's a different magistrate, so that will be for the postponements that's likely to take place before our bail application. Blaine, handing back to you.
Okay, Jill, no doubt you will stay on top of things. Thank you very much indeed for your reporting. Gillian Pillay live in Protea Magistrates